Hello, everyone. Craig here with another episode of the Indycar Monologues. But this is going to be a different one today because we're going to talk about sports car racing. In particular, this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. As you probably already know, Toyota finally made their dream come true. They won the race overall in their LMP1 hybrid today, and a pretty much a landslide victory, finishing 1-2. Also, Fernando Alonso was in the winning car, achieving the second part of racing's Triple Crown, which, for those who don't know, winning Monaco, Le Mans, and Indianapolis 500. Only a handful of drivers have achieved that accomplishment, so congratulations on Fernando Alonso. Now, this should be a great moment in racing in general. This should be a wonderful moment. But I feel like this is one of the most hollow and the most fabricated moments in recent sports car racing history. Here's why. Number one, Toyota didn't beat nobody. It was the weakest LP1 field in probably maybe 30 years. I mean, there's only one factory team in the race, and that was Toyota in LMP1. All the other LMP1 cars were privateer efforts, and they weren't even hybrids. They are all normal gasoline powered cars. The next closest car to them, to both Toyotas, was 15 laps down, and that was Rebellion, which I give a lot of credit to, considering the odds were stacked against them. Hell, what little advantage they did have, if any, was taken away from them with a regulation change about the fuel flow, about their fuel tanks. Toyota was going to win the race regardless, barring a mechanical failure. And even with that, they were so much quicker than everybody else, they were going to make up the time. They didn't beat anybody. When Mazda won their Le Mans, they beat some great cars. They beat a great field, great teams, and great drivers. That's why that one was so significant, and that's why that one was so special. This one ain't special. This one isn't significant. It doesn't mean anything. You won a race because nobody else wanted to spend the money because the LMP1 category is so expensive now to to participate in it. And then on top of that, I feel like Toyota manipulated the rules a little bit with the FIA ACO to make sure they won the race with the hybrid technology. And if you're a gasoline powered car, you were basically screwed. It was silly to me. I feel like nothing should be celebrated. I feel like the FIA ACO and the organizers of Le Mans should be ashamed of themselves and embarrassed that we had this sort of race. I don't care if Toyota won it in a landslide. That happens. That's all racing. What I don't like is the competition. There was no competition, and Toyota made sure there was no competition. They're thinking they're lucky stars that Audi and Porsche went on to do other things. Even Nissan, their car was so much of a failure a couple of years ago. If they would have raced that car today, at least they would have made Toyota scared. But that didn't happen either. So I'm not impressed by Toyota's victory. I congratulate them. It's a long time coming. But should you really be proud of a race that was handed to you? It was a foregone conclusion. Which leads me to my next point, the idea of LMP1 is dead, and we knew it was dead. It was dead last year. After Toyota blew their chance again in that race. Porsche barely won the race from an LMP2 car, by the way. Not an LMP1, but an LMP2. If Porsche would stayed in pits last year, a little longer, the LMP2 car would have won that race. The class is dead, and it's been dead. Now, rules have come out for the next generation of, I guess, the premier category of sports car racing, which gives me something to be excited about because it's going to be based off possible concept cars, hypercars, supercars, what have you. Still has a hybrid system in it, which I don't agree with. But there's also this rule of they really pushing this electric power thing, this hybrid thing. I'm not a fan of it. But they say it's going to be cheaper than LMP1 right now, which is a good thing. Maybe that's going to bring some more manufacturing involvement, which is what we need right now. But with that being said, I also want to mention the not IndyCar, excuse me. Something I would like to call the sports car racing Cold War. This is something I haven't heard a lot of people talk about. Not a lot of people mention, but as a avid racing fan, I try to keep my ear to the ground to such things. And I think what we got right now is a Cold War in sports car racing between the FIA ACO, which governs the WEC, the World Endurance Championship, and INSMA, which of course governs the WeatherTech Championship. This started years ago at the end of the American Le Mans Series era. And then when the WEC came into existence, it took LMP1 cars from the United States, kept them out of the United States for seasons now. Whereas with the American Le Mans Series, you saw the best cars who raced in Le Mans race here in a year-long championship. When the WEC was created, that ended all that. When that ended, there was an opportunity to bring those cars back. But I feel like the FIA and ACO has made it their business not to have LMP1 cars race in this country. They didn't want LMP1 cars racing at Daytona. They didn't want them racing at Watkins Glen. They didn't want them racing at the biggest events that America has to offer. They wanted to keep them in Europe. They didn't want to work with INSMA. They didn't want a global championship. See, this whole idea of the global championship, the FIA ACO has been trying to avoid that for probably about 15 years. They didn't want it. I feel as though when the American Le Mans Series was around and you had basically that global championship, that was the global championship back then, because you had Audi Sport, for instance, they would race in the United States, and then they would race in Le Mans, and then they would have extra cars. And I was the same with other manufacturers who raced in the LMP1 category. That was actually the global championship, and the FIA ACO didn't like it. I feel like they didn't like it. They got together to prevent that. So when negotiations start to happen back years ago, to possibly have LMP1 machinery race in the United States and race in Europe, race in Le Mans, the FIA ACA took the first chance they got to make sure that didn't happen, which caused INSMA to have their own rules and regulations, which created the Daytona prototype category, so on and so forth, for those who know the story. Let's fast forward to today. INSMA was a part of the talks for the new regulations. I think they come out in 2020 or 2021. Sky Allington, president of INSMA, I don't know, that's his official title. He's a high-ranking executive. Basically said what's keeping them apart, the biggest issue is cost. And I would tend to agree. The cost is a big issue because here are two sanctioning bodies, two of the biggest in the world, who have very different philosophies on sports car racing. And one has proven their philosophy works and the other's proven it's not. INSMA has proven their philosophy works. What they did was use the LMP2 rule package, created the Daytona Prototype International category, got manufacturers involved, had them engage in part of the process, and made those cars look good, made those cars fast, and now has a very entertaining product, an exciting product that manufacturers want to be involved in. It's not super expensive. You can still use a lot of technology in it. And most of all, you know, you get brand exposure. Now, in the WEC Championship, their philosophy is hybrids for their premier category. They want hybrids so bad they're stuck on stupid with it. Hybrids killed LMP1. I will say it again. Hybrids killed LMP1. Hey, LMP1 was expensive. Everybody knew that. You about spending a budget of a midfield Formula One team. But you was willing to deal with that. When they introduced the hybrids and it got out of hand, really quick. The technology became too expensive. But the FIA and ACL feel like, well, this is what we want sports car racing to be. We want the hybrid represented. We want a major part of our form of sports car racing, what we think of what sports car racing should be. They were so stuck on it, what they wanted to do was make that more important than manufacturers, teams, privateer teams. They made that priority number one over everything else. And look at them now. You had a joke of a Lemans, in my opinion. But trying to figure out the rules package. It may work, it may not. Their issue wasn't that hard. All you have to do is just remove hybrids. If you remove hybrids, I guarantee you would have 5 manufacturers on the grid right now. You have 5. That's 10 cars. You have 10 cars that run two cars a team. That's 10 cars. Plus the privateers, because you could have did the customer car thing, which is something else they didn't want. They didn't want customer cars. They could have easily let teams buy their cars if it was a non-hybrid category. It would have been so much easier. But because it was hybrids and teams had spent so much money, they didn't want to share the technology. So now these privateer teams are running in substandard equipment, trying to go against these powerhouse hybrid cars and these big money teams. They can't do it because they don't have the technology or the horsepower. LMP1 is dead because the FIA and ACO wanted hybrids. If you look at it right now in this sports car racing Cold War, INSMA is winning. They're winning because their formula works. And manufacturers want to be part of that formula and want to be part of INSMA. They're a major part of INSMA right now. They're manufacturers in the Daytona Prototype International category, which is Cadillac or GM, Nissan Renault, you might as well say, Mazda, and Acura, which is basically Honda. That's four manufacturers. And may get more as the years go along. Ford, their GT program is coming to an end. They could stay in GT or they could move up. Now think about that, the Ford GT as a prototype. That would be something special. Okay. And look at all this numerous manufacturers. Toyota's spending they're spending a Formula One budget on their cars. That same budget could get you four cars easy in the WeatherTech Championship in the DPI category with money to spare, and you could be dominating there without having to use a hybrid and winning legitimately. But no, it's not how they want to do it. And it's not how the FIA ACO wants to do things either. I'm just sick and tired of the WEC. I'm sick and tired of them. I'm sick and tired of the FIA ACO because they really believe this is how sports car racing is supposed to be, and it's not, and it shouldn't be this way. Why are they so stuck on stupid with the hybrids? If you want to race hybrids, there's something called Formula E, something that FIA created where you could use alternative technologies, alternative ways of powering a racing car or a car in general. Go put it there. Put it there. Mercedes got out of the DTM to use their technology in Formula E. Porsche said, we didn't want to be in LMP1 anymore. We'll race in Formula E, which, by the way, is cheaper because you don't have to build a car. All you got to do is build a powertrain, and you're in the series. You're not spending a lot of money to do that. But you went into LMP1 and the WEC, you're spending hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay? It just doesn't work. It doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. It also goes to Formula One. Formula One, they're stuck on stupid with the whole hybrid thing there. I don't want to see hybrids no more. I don't want to see hybrids in my racing. Not in this level. If I want to watch Formula E, which I don't, but if I did, okay, I know that's electric power. That's a different type of series. But they can showcase that technology. Okay, if I wanted to see that, I'll watch Formula E. I want my racing to have fire-breathing dragons as race cars. I want sports car racing. If you're talking about international sports car racing, I want 1,000 horsepower fire-breathing dragon. Okay? But you don't need a hybrid to do that. Just make a V12 engine. Make a V8. You can do it with a V6. You can do it at inline 4 if you're smart. Okay? I'm tired of the FIA using these fuel flow regulations, which is something else that's wrong with it. Why do we have fuel flow regulation? Why do we need a fuel flow regulation for Le Mans? Come on. So you're going to regulate how much fuel goes in the engine at one time, therefore you're limiting the horsepower. That's a restrictor plate. You know who does restrictor plates? NASCAR. And they ain't doing so great either. Okay? Let these cars go full power, full bore. That's what we want to see as the race fan. At least this racing fan wants to see it. Why are you having fuel flow regulation? It's Le Mans. You're not going to be on the track that long any damn way. The track's 8.5 miles long. And you're concerned about fuel flow and electric power. This ain't racing. Not in my opinion. I don't want to see this. This is why I like the WeatherTech Championship. Fairly simple. It's simpler. It's not as much technology. It's not as complex. But you have great racing, and you don't have these fuel flow regulations. You don't have this hybrid thing. You build an engine within the regulations. Whoever has the most horsepower. You have balance of performance, which is a necessary evil in this era. But I'll deal with balance of performance. Take balance of performance over hybrids and fuel flow regulations any day of the week. So, to wrap this whole thing up, I feel as though the FIA, ACO have a very short-sighted view on sports car racing, on what it should be. I feel like the WEC is hurting sports car racing. I feel like this was the worst Le Mans in a very long time. It was the first time I wasn't excited. I wasn't excited about Le Mans. I didn't really care. I watched some of it. And that's another, actually, I'm going to extend this now. My next point, the coverage of the race. Now, the coverage was on Velocity, which is a Discovery Channel owned network. Now, I'm sure they did a great job, but it's like I don't have that network. I don't have that network. Somebody wanted me to give a shout out. I don't know who. Nick Guns. Happy birthday to you. Okay. Whatever. Okay, but back to what I was saying. Back to what I was saying. What I want, the coverage on Velocity probably was good, but I don't have Velocity. I am a cord cutter, so I don't have regular cable. So then you get to the point of how do you watch the race? How do you watch the race? Okay, there was the WEC, the WEC app you could use. But here's the problem with that: it's geo-blocked, which means if you live in the United States, you couldn't watch the race through the WEC app, which is ridiculous. We are the biggest market. We're the biggest market. So why would you block fans of racing from watching your race in the biggest market there is, the United States? Really silly to me. Really dumb. First thing. Second thing is, why Velocity, which is a lesser known network? I think you had even though Fox told everybody they weren't going to do the race this year, I think it would have. I think you had enough time. You could have put it on another network. I think NBC would have did it. In between Indycar races, the NASCAR season hasn't started yet. Not much going on right now. I think you could have did it on the NBC family and networks. I explain how. You do the race on NBCSN. I think you bring out the old Formula One team, Lee Diffie, Steve Matchett, and David Hobbs. Simple. They could have flew out to the race, or they could have did it in the studio in Connecticut. Did it like that. Either way, you could have got Andrew Marriott. I think you could have got Justin Bell. I think you could have got Calvin Fish. I think you could have got Bob Varsha. You could have brought back all the people who've been involved over the years for Le Mans and did it. I think you could have had it on NBCSN. You could have it on the big network, NBC. You could have it on USA. Put it on Golf Channel. Put it on MSNBC, CNBC, any NBC owned property. Have it on NBC Universal, the Spanish network. There's all sorts of ways you could have did it. They have a bigger presence here, okay, but they didn't do that. So, for us cord cutters who don't have velocity, how do you watch the race? Well, I'm not going to tell you, but we find ways to watch the race. We go to our friends. So, I feel like the WEC, in a further extension, FIA ACO, has alienated the United States marketplace now. Because you're saying, okay, y'all are sports car racing fans, right? Okay. Well, we're not going to let you watch our coverage because we just won't let you watch. So you're going to cut off the biggest market for y'all. And you're going to make it a strictly international thing. It's not, Americans are not allowed. Americans are not allowed. We're going to put the race on an obscure network. We're going to put the race on the network most people don't even have. And leave the people who can't watch it on TV to fend for themselves. By the way, shout out to Radio Lemans, because their coverage was top notch. Even though I couldn't watch it all, I knew exactly what was going on. They do great work. They've been doing great work for decades now. I appreciate what y'all did. I'm glad somebody wanted to do the race and do the race right. Because the FIA, ACO, WEC sure didn't. Okay. So now I'm going to wrap this up. By the way, this is a racing opinion type of YouTube. If you're gonna watch me have an opinion about racing, have an educated opinion, it's amateur hour, but like I just got a post from some idiot who wanted me to say a derogatory term, try to bait me. Like, they ain't that type of party, bro. You know, I'm just here to talk about racing, man. Because I've seen other people on YouTube talk about it. And I've been watching racing since '92, and I'm 32 years old. I'm going on 33 next month. All I want to do is just share my thoughts and see y'all later.